March 10th, 2022 regular meeting of the West Hartford Board of Assessors. My name is Teresa Szymanski, and I'm the acting chair of the Board of Assessors. This meeting is being conducted in a virtual format in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act as amended by Public Act number 21-2, which authorizes municipalities to conduct public meetings virtually. Members of the public can view the meeting live on West Hartford Community Television at www.whctv.org and www.youtube/WHCT5. The meeting is being conducted for on-demand viewing and will be available on the town's website for at least 45 days. Since we're conducting this meeting in a virtual format, there are some special rules and procedures that I need to cover before we begin. First, I ask all participants to mute your device when you are not speaking. If you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand and I will call on you in the order I see hands raised. If you are participating by audio only or I do not call on you and the debate is ending, then unmute your phone and let me know by voice so that I can recognize you. Second, all speakers must make a good faith effort to state their name and title at the outset of each occasion that such person participates in the meeting. Third, all votes must be taken by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. So we're going to proceed with the roll call. Okay, James Healy. You have to unmute, James.
Sorry, I am here. Yes, thank you, Terry.
Sure. Okay, great. You're here. Terry Michaud.
Present. Terry Michaud.
Terry Michaud. And this is Terry Szymanski, and I'm also present. Oh, okay. I guess I keep going, right? Let's see. So the first, the first items on the agenda are the minutes of the, we'll do the minutes of the December 9th meeting. And those were included, I don't know if you included them again, Joe, those were included in last month's packet. And do I have can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 9th meeting? Usually this used to be my role when Bill was chair, so. Okay. Second?
I second, Terry Michaud.
Okay. Okay, and I'm all in favor, just raise your hands because I know it's going to be a unanimous vote. Thank you. All right, that's done. And the minutes of the February, what was the date, Joe? I don't remember what the date was.
The 10th.
The 10th. February 10th? Okay. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 10th meeting?
Terry Michaud, make a motion to accept the minutes from the February 10th meeting.
Okay, thank you. And second?
Second.
James Healy, second. All in favor? Great, unanimous. Thank you. In the first meeting, Joe, do you want to take it away? It's the Hebrew Home Hospital. Are we doing all three together or just?
Well, I think we'll do them one at a time. I've asked Mr. Delacandro to be here because I think he would be in a better position to shed light on the nuances of the various subsidiaries under the Hebrew system that they're seeking a property tax exemption on. And by way of background, this used to be a chronic disease hospital at one point in time in the town of West Hartford. And the chronic disease hospital had a certificate of need from the state of Connecticut. And as a chronic disease hospital, they were tax exempt. In fact, the town of West Hartford received pilot payments from the state of Connecticut in lieu of taxes on chronic disease hospitals. We only had one in town, that was that one. There's some other organizations, but they're not hospitals. Regrettably, there was a bankruptcy proceeding in July, I believe, of 2016, and they have reformulated themselves change some of the organizational structure of how things work, and some of the organizations or subsidiaries, from what I can tell from some of the documents, don't really have any physical assets, but they're seeking a property tax exemption. And Fred will correct me if I'm incorrect, but I believe it's the Hebrew Harford Hospital, or Hebrew Harford Health, that is the principal entity or parent that all of the other subsidiaries fall under. So with that, Fred, can we start with a little background on Hebrew Home Hospital? Hebrew Home Hospital is looking for an exemption on their personal property. None of the organizations own any real estate. The real estate was sold to Hebrew Home for Health and Rehabilitation, LLC. They are a for-profit entity, and they operate the skilled nursing facility over there. They have leased some property to Hebrew Home Hospital, I believe, somewhere in the area of about 29 to 30,000 square feet of the building, and some limited use of some other common areas in the building by agreement with their landlord. So with that, I am going to allow Fred to give some clarity to all this.
Thank you. My name is Fred D'Alessandro. I am the consulting chief financial officer for Hebrew Senior Care, and I am pleased to be invited to this meeting. Hebrew Home and Hospital is the entity that is requesting the tax exemption for its personal property located at 1 Abrahms Boulevard in West Hartford. The hospital is a behavioral health hospital and has 38 beds in 2 units that operates inside of the building that is owned by a for-profit nursing home that's a non-related party to Hebrew Senior Care. As Mr. Dakers indicated, the property was purchased somewhere around 2017 by the for-profit nursing home, and the square footage, which is roughly 29,000 square feet, was leased back to Hebrew Home and Hospital. And Hebrew Home and Hospital has beds and other hospital equipment that is in the building and on the 2 units that is being requested for the tax exemption. The hospital is a 5013C nonprofit and has been operating at that location since approximately 2003. And prior to that, it was located on Tower Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut. The organization, the overriding organization for the nonprofit is called Hebrew Healthcare, Inc. And we will be requesting a separate exemption for its personal property. But that is the overview of Hebrew Home and Hospital. There is at that physical location at 1 Abrahms Boulevard, there are 3 entities that are physically present there, one of which is a for-profit called Connecticut Geriatric Specialty Group. It's a hospital group that provides services to the hospital. And we'll talk about that when its turn is around for discussion. They are not requesting a tax exemption, though.
Through the chair, Teresa, through you, to Fred. Fred, how do you distinguish yourself compared to Chatfield, which has a behavioral health unit, and there's another one in town, I forget the name, I wrote it down here. But if you can start with that, how does Hebrew Home Hospital view itself? I know that you have a 501c3 and that you're viewed as a public charity under the Internal Revenue Code.
Yes.
But how are you different from the Chatfield? I know a few years ago they put up almost a $20 million a unit over there that deals with behavioral health. But maybe you can help us out with that.
Well, yes. I think the distinguishing factor of Hebrew Home and Hospital is that it serves the public and has served the public for well over 15, 16 years at that location. And one of the unique things about the Hebrew Home and Hospital is because it's located inside the building of a nursing home, there is easy transition to the nursing home if a resident of the hospital needs nursing home services once it's completed its behavioral health service. So I think that's probably the key distinguishing factor in its ability to provide not only the behavioral health services and but the fact that it's able to transport its residents right within the building to the nursing home if that is needed. They also have the Connecticut Geriatric Specialty Group, which is located right inside the hospital. And one of the unique things about that group is the doctors stay at the hospital 24/7. And there's actually a location within the hospital where they sleep and are available to the residents 24 hours a day, which I think that is very unique and very, public oriented and to serve the community and the special needs of those particular residents. And that I would say is the most distinguishing factor.
As a follow-up, yeah, go right ahead.
Go ahead. No, so Joe, I wondered if that was the point of your question.
Well, yeah. The point of my question is we have the, I think, Brookdale Living Communities. I think they're DBA. They're located on 1 Chatfield, across the street from West Farms Mall. And we also have Hamilton Heights on one Hamilton Heights Drive, and they also have a dementia unit. In fact, I know I did an inspection there in 2011, and they have special doors closed off so that the residents that are in that particular area just can't roam off and go away. And so what I'm trying to reconcile to provide the committee a little bit more information is how
those actually, I believe, are that's actually those dementia units are nursing homes versus this is actually a hospital that is recognized by the state of Connecticut as providing hospital services. A lot of times you'll hear dementia unit, Alzheimer's unit, and those are associated with long-term care facilities. We are at the home and hospital. It is specifically and only hospital services that are provided to the residents, which is a higher level of care than what you would see in the nursing home. And if they do need to, once they're done with their stay at the hospital, are well enough to go back to the nursing home, they can go to the nursing home, which is owned by the for-profit entity, which is unrelated to the hospital, and they can go back onto the dementia unit or the Alzheimer's unit or whatever particular unit they are physically present on. But our mission is to care for those who have the acute behavioral health need, which requires hospital services.
So, Joe, this is Terry Szymanski speaking. Are you trying to get more at the distinguishing, not so much the physical transportation and all, but the charity, the 1281 distinction?
That is the area of the statute I think they anchored themselves on in their application.
Right.
And my concern was with the other organizations that we have in town that perform similar services that are taxable. And
that's
wanting
what
to, yeah, wanting to draw out that issue. Now, I don't know if the Department of Public Health, and maybe Fred, you can provide some clarity on this, whether or not there's a requirement for a certificate of need for the behavioral health unit that you have over there at the Hebrew Hospital.
That's a very good question. We actually had to go through an extensive process to change to become specifically a behavioral health hospital unit. We had to actually apply to the Connecticut Department of Public Health and were approved to operate the hospital in the specific area of behavioral health. And that's the only services that are provided at that hospital is behavioral health services. I also wanted to point out that the hospital is run by, is overseen by a board of directors, a nonprofit board of directors. And they all volunteer their time to oversee and are heavily involved in the decision-making and policies of the hospital to make sure that the hospital is serving the best interests of the public. Each time a decision is made, and it's been a long-standing nonprofit for its full existence. There was never a point in time where it was for-profit and then converted to nonprofit. It was always a nonprofit hospital.
Fred, did each of the entities, the Hebrew Home Hospital, the Hebrew Healthcare Inc., and the Hebrew Community Services, did each of those receive a 501c3 designation from the IRS separately?
Yes, they all have separately received a designation separately. They're all separate legal entities. They're all registered with the Secretary of State with the state of Connecticut, and they each have separate designations.
Did they receive the, I think the state of Connecticut stopped giving those little tax-exempt certificates a while ago, but did each of these entities receive one of those as well?
Yes.
Separately?
Separately.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
go ahead, Joe.
through the chair. And one of the other reasons, Fred pointed out that these components of the hospital have always been exempt. There was a point in time, to Fred's point, where that entire complex and all of the property there was tax exempt. But subsequent to the bankruptcy in July of 26, there was a reorganization. And you can see that these applications that we have here are all initial applications. So
Right.
which is why I'm probing this, because I just want to make sure that before we make any decisions that we kind of flush out some of these other salient issues. Fred made a distinction about how they differ from some of the other organizations in town that provide similar type services. But of course, there's an annex to theirs with the skilled nursing facility, et cetera. And I don't, just for Fred, I don't see any purpose in mentioning the Connecticut Geriatric Specialty Unit. They're taxable, and it's really not germane to the discussion this morning, Fred. So
I understand.
Yep.
Yes.
That's all I have on that. Again, those questions.
Can I ask? I have one more question for Fred. This is Terry Szymanski speaking. So I guess I was reading through the documents that you sent, I guess, Fred, or someone sent, and I wasn't quite clear on. At first, I thought I read that Hebrew Community Services provides oversight for all the 501c3 activities of all the entities, and then I think later on I read that maybe it was Hebrew Healthcare. So I'm a little bit, hold on. I'm not confused, but just need a little clarification on that. But also, it looked like the property was mostly motor vehicles, and I couldn't tell who actually owned them, and I wondered why all three entities were. Sometimes there was overlap, so I couldn't tell which entity owned it and why there needed to be three separate applications.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Hebrew Community Services is the entity that runs an adult daycare inside the building where the hospital and the nursing home are located. Hebrew Community Services does utilize vans to transport the adult daycare visitors. It is a tax-exempt organization, and it needs those vans to operate the adult daycare. Those vans are actually owned by an entity called Hebrew Healthcare, Inc., which is also a nonprofit entity. Hebrew Healthcare, Inc. is the overriding entity involved in the nonprofit activities. When they issue financial statements, audited financial statements at the end of the year, the Hebrew Healthcare, Inc. is considered the parent company. And all the subsidiaries are included in those audited financial statements. Hebrew Healthcare, Inc. not only owns the vehicles, but actually manages the various lines of business, one of which is the hospital, one of which is the adult daycare, which is run through Hebrew Community Services. And Hebrew Community Services also provides services to a nonprofit that is part of the group called Summerwood, Harford Summerwood, which is an assisted living located in the town of West Hartford.
So the entity owning the vehicles is Hebrew Healthcare.
Yes.
So what exactly is the community services applying?
Community services has personal property located within the building, and that personal property is primarily the equipment, the furniture, computers that are needed to run the adult daycare.
Madam Chair? Teresa?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to, unless you gave me authority to speak.
No,
you know,
I wondered if, go ahead. Do James or Terry have any questions for Fred?
All right. I wanted to segment these as much as I possibly can because, you know, they can turn into a ball of twine. I've been working with these files for over a week now and working with Fred just to make sure that I can articulate the necessary information for you to have. So Fred mentioned the Hoffman organization at 160 Simsbury Road, which is an assisting living services entity. And I have to point out that albeit that they have a 501c3, they are taxable. We tax their real estate and their business personal property. So in terms of providing support for is it the adult daycare, Fred? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, the adult daycare is physically located at 1 Abrahms Boulevard.
Right. And then there's also, you referenced the senior, I think it's a DBA for one of these entities, one of these subsidiaries, Senior Day something.
Yes, it's Hebrew Community Services, Inc. is separately applying. Hebrew Community Services is separately applying for its tax exemption for its personal property that's used to run the daycare.
But this does not, this has no way, this does not capture the Summerwood property.
No, there is no request at this point for tax exemption on the Summerwood property.
Okay,
The
I just wanted to...
property has been before the Board of Assessors, and that building is considered taxable property to the town of West Hartford, as is the personal property located at that location.
Okay.
The Hebrew Community Services is simply provide services both to the adult daycare and residents of the Hoffman Summerwood. If they need assisted living services, they can contact Hebrew Community Services, and a nurse can go over and visit, or an aide can go over and visit and provide services to the resident. But it's separate and distinct from the physical plant or the real estate or the equipment of Summerwood.
Okay. Madam Chair, just one more comment concerning the hospital. So I provided each one of the board members with copies of applicable statutes, certainly one for sure. And the other one, I have some, I want to bring it to your attention. It's 12-81 subsection 16, and it speaks to property of hospitals and sanatoriums. I'm not sure, did you all get that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my question here, and I'm waiting for feedback from our corporation counsel, is what constitutes a hospital in Connecticut? And I believe there is a certificate of need component through the Department of Public Health. And if that is the case, and that is something that the Hebrew Hospital has, Hebrew Home and Hospital has, then perhaps they may be falling under this particular subsection of the statute.
Yeah, Terry Michaud has a question.
Hi, this is Terry Michaud. About the behavioral health aspect of it, are the beds, the 32 beds I think you said you had, they used to capacity more often than not?
That's a very good question. Since the 2 new units were approved by the state of Connecticut Department of Public Health, there are 38 beds in that unit, and the beds, there's a high demand for usage of those beds.
Of course. And can you tell me, are you primarily working with senior citizens in this capacity?
It would be a mix of senior citizens and others who need that services. So I would say there's a mix of citizens from any age of services that are needed, but they're primarily adults that are using that services.
And would you go so far as, I'm sorry, Mayan, how young would be the youngest person being serviced by this?
I am not specifically aware of the youngest person, but I would believe that somebody could be 25 or 30 who would need those services, that would be able to use those services. It's not a, I do not believe it's a adolescent program. It's primarily adults.
Thank you.
And if I'm wrong, I can.
Oh.
If I'm wrong, I can provide Mr. Jacobs with a list of ages. You know, if I misspoke.
James?
Hi, thank you. I guess I'm wondering, and I appreciate everyone's answers to these questions, and I take it from hearing Joe talk about the request into Corporation Counsel. I wonder if we may need to wait on a firm answer one way or the other from them, Joe, before we can take action on this. But I just offer that for discussion here, just to make sure we know we're confident of the lay of the land before we take a vote.
Yeah, well, I think, Joe, I think if there are no more questions for Fred, we might let him go before we discuss it.
Yeah, I think Fred has certainly gave us the illumination we need on, you know, the connectivity of these organizations and some of the things that they do. And unless you have any further questions for him, I know I've spent a considerable amount of time with Fred already, so
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm good too.
Okay. Well, I wanted to
Thank
thank
you.
you all for inviting me to this meeting. I know the importance of it, and the organization knows the importance of it, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so the way that Robert's rules work, I'm not sure if we're used to doing this or not, but typically what you do is somebody makes a proposal, a motion, and then to accept the application or approve the application, and then somebody seconds it, and then we have our discussion. So let's do that. Can I hear a motion to? Oh, Joe, we're going to do these one at a time then?
Yeah, I think we should, because they're all separate entities.
They are separate entities, but I didn't get the feeling that there was one list of cars that was on both applications.
Well, yeah, and I brought that to your attention earlier. That whoever filled out the application, they probably weren't sure what they should do. They don't own the cars,
right?
So I think we need to dismiss that.
I think we do too. It was kind of like a belt and suspenders thing, I guess.
Yeah.
That was
Hebrew Community Services.
That was the one that uses the cars.
That's right. They're actually owned by Hebrew Healthcare.
So Hebrew Healthcare. owns them.
Right.
Okay, so, all right, so let's do the Hebrew Home Hospital first. Do I hear a motion to accept or to approve their application for tax exemption on their personal property?
So moved. James Healy, so moved.
Second? Terry Michaud. Okay, so let's discuss it now. James suggested before that we wait till we hear from Corporation Counsel.
Yeah,
Joe,
sorry for
can you
jumping
give us
the gun,
kind of-
but
No, that was fine. That was good. Joe, can you kind of give us what you think is a summary? I mean, I felt like this ended up being a little bit more complicated than it needed to be.
Well, I thought it was too, with the 3 applications and what was going on. There are a lot of moving parts here that I'm aware of. And for example, when I mentioned Hebrew Community Services and the connection with the adult daycare and Hebrew Hoffman, I don't have Hoffman's full ID in front of me, but you know who I'm talking about. They're connected to this health system. And so Hoffman has gone through this process years ago, and they were denied an exemption for the assisting living component on their real and their personal property. So I just wanted to make sure this wasn't, that we weren't snagged as a result of something we did by capturing their personal property and real property also. And of course, Fred indicated that that's not the case. That's fine. They have a lot going on over there, and with the certificate of need, they actually filed an application through their attorneys, Wiggin and Dana, to withdraw the certificate of need from the Department of Public Health because they were changing the organizations, and that component, the skilled nursing facility that was sold to a private for-profit entity, is no longer connected with them, although it has a name of Hebrew Home for Health and Rehabilitation, LLC. They're totally independent from that, and I think that needs to be pointed out. It's about 165,000 square foot of property. The Hebrew Home and Hospital has about 29% of that space, and some limited use of some other common areas in the building, like the kitchen and so forth, to provide services for their residents, et cetera. So I just wanted to make sure that we really parse this thing and whether or not they actually fall under the definition of a hospital. And I don't know if they do per se, which is why I need the Corporation Council's input on 1281-16. And it speaks to hospitals. Now, they checked off 1281-7, but I don't know if that really is applicable to their application. I would think it would be more like 16. Terry asked some good questions. I thought she was going to go to one area in terms of their the community that they serve at large. And is there any requirement, if you don't have the resources to pay for health services, how do they handle that? Is it only Medicare, Medicaid, or do they accept private pay too? So and I think in some of their documents that they have provided, I think with their audited financial statements and so forth, they do speak to that to some degree. In short, that they don't turn anyone away. And to Terry's other question, the age is from 50 years and older, and that's part of their 990 that they filed in I think it was 2019. So that's the age group. Now, whether or not they accept someone earlier than that, or whether that's just at a point in time that was the census of the residents that they had there, it's another story. So I think I would like us to get a little bit more clarity and allow me to do a little bit more legwork, get some information from Corporation Counsel, and just identify what a hospital is in light of their application.
Okay, Joe, are you suggesting that is true for just the one we're on now, the home hospital, or the Healthcare Inc. as well?
Well, the other ones are not professing to be a hospital. So Hebrew Community Services is a non-profit, and I think they have an adult daycare component. That's what they do.
Right, that's what they are, the adult. Okay, so
a senior daycare center.
Okay, so what I'm gonna propose then is that, and Joe, you know, tell me if I'm mischaracterizing this, but and to James's and Joe's suggestion, I'm gonna propose that we table the vote on the Hebrew Home Hospital exemption for personal property request until we have more information, particularly from corporate counsel, about the definition of a hospital.
Yes.
Can we have a vote on that? In favor? Okay, Terry Samansky, James Seeley, and Terry Michaud are all in favor. So that one is tabled. Okay, the next one is Hebrew Healthcare Inc. And they are proposing, they are applying for personal tax exemption for personal property and motor vehicles. Can I have a motion to approve that request? James?
James Seeley, so moved.
Terry, would you like to second that? Thank you.
Terry Michaud,
All right,
second.
discussion. Any discussion on that one?
Through you, Chair, just for the background for the board, there are 4 2015 Ford E350, looks like some kind of transportation vans. The aggregate assessment for those vehicles, while this is not germane, I'm just giving you some background information, is $59,840. And the business personal property, if you will, FF&E, they have submitted a declaration of personal property, and that has an assessment of $34,900 on the 2021 grand list. And they're seeking shelter under 12-817. And my guess is it's because of charitable purposes.
Yeah, okay. Is there discussion? Joe, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments on this one. You know, all of these organizations, if you think about a room in your house, they're all in one room, but they have different divisions of things that they do, and so they have been there for years. I think I think when they built that property was in the early 90s, maybe 1999, if not earlier. And a lot of this information was shrouded from us because they fell under the chronic disease hospital definition and was exempt. So not until the bankruptcy in 2016 and the sale of the real estate in early 2017, we just didn't take a closer look at it up until that time. Me and one of my staff members actually went out there to meet with the bankruptcy officer who was handling that restructuring at the time. And of course, we wanted to make sure that we had properly compartmentalize the personal property that they had over there from everything else that they were doing, because we didn't have any information at the time on the tax-exempt organization. If you spent a little time on some of the financial documents, they're having some challenges. They're deficient on a lot of their expenses, and I even think the mortgage may be callable on that property because of breaching one of the covenants that they have. So they really have some challenges over there, but they are a kind of like an icon in the community. They've been around for a long time, and I'm not sure what the internal issues are that are creating this problem. I do know that that our skilled nursing facilities that we have in town, they have taken a beating in terms of the grand list. We lost 36% of market value on those. Some of that stems from the pandemic, where they saw just a huge drop in occupancies, and a lot of the cottage industry, where a lot of people are opting for home care instead of going into these highly populated places, have hurt some of these organizations to a large degree. And I know personally that they have some challenges over here. So I don't want to hamper them with that. I don't see anything in here that would give me pause to question whether or not they're a nonprofit here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any other
so
discussion? So Terry, you have a question?
I do. We see that their assets for the vehicles are about $60,000. Is there a cap on that? Or just whatever they buy and whatever their personal property is, they get a tax break on all of this, everything, no matter what?
Yeah, that's a good question, Terry. By statute, if they acquire any additional personal property, whether it be furniture and fixtures or motor vehicles, they're required to file a supplemental application with the town. Otherwise, failure to do that new property would be taxable and wouldn't be exempt.
All right, thank you.
So can we call a vote? This is for the approval of Hebrew Healthcare, Inc. personal property and motor vehicles. All in favor? Looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. With respect to Hebrew Community Services, instead of calling for a vote, I think we determined they really don't have any personal property. They use it, but they don't own it. And I didn't see anything else listed there. Oh, no, wait a minute. He said they have equipment also in the building.
That is correct.
Okay, sorry. All right, so Hebrew Community Services, I'm going to propose that, or can I have a proposal that we approve the application for Hebrew Community Services tax exemption application for personal property? Need a motion.
So moved.
Are you seconding?
Second, I do.
Great. Discussion? Joe, any summary on that one?
Well, I have here again, I have a concern because I have a senior daycare center on New Britain Avenue here in town. Almost across the street from the old Puritan furniture store, a little further up west. And they're taxable. So I'm cautious about the extension of an exemption on something like this. Now, I have only spoken to Fred about this, but if I have another entity in town that's a 501c3 and they're taxable, I have to start asking some questions. Why is this? Why should this property be exempt? We all know that the 501c3 that is extended by the Department of Treasury is for federal income tax purposes. It has nothing to do with state and local tax purposes. So I think we probably, I think we need a little bit more clarity on this one. And I would just, for the benefit of the board, before we grant an extension, I would ask that the board table this to allow us to get more information for you before you render a decision on this.
Joe, is there the one on New Britain Avenue? Was it recent enough for you to be able to retrieve the paperwork? I mean, I hate to make everybody read all through that again, but we got to know.
No, yeah, the one on New Britain Avenue has been there for quite some time. I know. I think they've been here. Maybe my memory serves me as early as 2006. They've been around. And
did they actually apply for a tax exemption and it was denied?
No, they've never applied for one.
They've never even applied. Okay.
So what I would do in cases like this, and at least to some extent, is I would first go to GuideStar to see whether or not a 990 is filed by an organization like this. And if they file a 990, that lets me know that they have some recognition of exemption from the federal income tax. And on the other hand, they might be viewing themselves as a for-profit.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just cautious about that.
Yep. So we need to table Hebrew Community Services for.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna propose that we table the decision on Hebrew Community Services until we have more information. All in favor? Good. Okay, great. Now, Joe, I didn't mention this at the time, but we went right by the grand list summary and the West Hartford Women's Chorale because Fred was already here. So, but Joe, I also want to point out that it's almost 9, and I don't know if we have a hard stop at 9 or if we can go over. But we have to. If we can't go over, we have to decide what we're going to do.
Yeah, I have interest. I always have interest in your time, and I don't want to spend any more than an hour doing this. But if I can, I could, through you, we can jump to, we can table the Hebrew Healthcare Inc. I think that one is pretty well done, but we can jump to Journey Home. That's an easy one.
Yep.
Easy. Yeah, they don't have any physical assets in West Hartford. They rent some warehouse space at 635 New Park Avenue. Their mission is really dealing with the reduction of homelessness for families in Connecticut. They have a pretty decent budget. I think it's in excess of $4 million. I went back and forth with the director, but I think they have a couple of hand trucks. All of their property is located in Harford on, I think it's 360 Main Street. So they have no registered vehicles here. They're strictly housing. If you call them up and you have an old sofa or something you want to donate to them, they would come and pick that sofa up and they would host it over there until they have a family that has use for that kind of thing. So, but here's the thing here. They have no property, and they own no real estate, and they own no business personal property. So I don't believe any action is required on this because they don't own anything. So what are you're not exempting?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I read on that. I thought they had listed some like supplies or expenses or something. No, or am I thinking of some other?
I think it may be some other stuff. They don't have any. I've gone back and forth with them. They've written letters to the mayor and, you know, all this kind of thing. And, you know, if you're a business in this town, you're required to complete a declaration. It's just that simple. And then we deal with the other issues that come up. They're certainly a noble organization. According to their documents in their 990, we are now able to keep over 75% of family and housing crisis out of emergency centers through our making a house a home, furniture donation and volunteer engagement, through our aerospace employment program. Just under 50 individuals have received training and subsequent job placement. So you know, they clearly do a great work, and I don't think there's any denying that, but they don't have any property.
Okay, so we don't want to deny it. We want to say it's not applicable or something, right? We don't want to deny it.
No, I don't think we should deny it. This is quite unusual. I haven't had any of these before, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So so what would be the usual procedure? You would communicate back with them, or someone would, and say, this is not applicable. You don't seem to have any personal property. I would have to craft some communication that says that the board reviewed your application and no action was taken because you have no property to consider for exemption. Okay, so then I would like to move that rather than deciding on the application with an approval or denial, that Joe communicates back with Journey Home to let them know that we review their application and there is no personal property. Sound good? Everybody agree? Yes? No? All right, great. Great. Okay. So do we have time for anything else, Joe, or it's after 9?
I think it's 9 o'clock, and I know a lot of you have other things that you do, so I want to respect your time and
yeah.
just.
So I want to point out one thing. There's on the documents that you sent last time for February, there was a whole bunch of documents for the Jewish Community Foundation, but it never showed up in the agenda.
Right. That is the agenda item that I am trying to schedule the special meeting for.
Okay. Okay.
So that's been around for a while, and I want to get that out of the way. They also have an application for the Board of Assessment Appeals, but I believe if we can, if we act application that the board doesn't have to consider that at all. The Board of Assessment Appeals doesn't have to consider it.
Okay, so are we going to include the rest of the items? There's the grand list summary, the West Hartford Women's Chorale, and the CAPS, the public school superintendents. Are we going to table those for next time?
Yeah, if you don't mind, we don't have time for that today. I certainly would.
Yeah.
Be glad to share that with you at a later meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to be like James, and you guys ain't not going to see me after a while. I'm going to be in court every time you turn around.
Well, we'll know where to find you, Joe.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to table the items we talked about, and the meeting will be adjourned if everybody's in agreement. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks to all.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Bye.